welcome to CrimeDivers. I'm Laura.
And I'm Jill.
And welcome to this week's episode.
Hello everybody, welcome back, or if you're new here, welcome.
Welcome along. So Jill, where in the world are we?
We are in the USA.
And the title?
Death of a Beauty Queen.
Ooh, okay. Shall we dive in?
Yes, we shall dive in, but I will tell you before we dive in that this is it's unsolved.
Uh-huh.
But it's not mysterious, so that's why I didn't put it in the mysterious episodes.
Right.
For anybody that doesn't know, we on our Patreon, one of the tiers, you'll get a mysterious episode every month.
Yes.
You know, like mysterious disappearances, mysterious deaths.
Uh-huh.
But this one is unsolved, but you draw your own conclusion.
Yeah, cool.
So,
shall we dive in?
We'll dive in now. So, Nona Carol Dirksmeyer was born on the 26th of December 1985, and she was the second child to Paul and Carol. They had met 10 years earlier when Carol was a student at university, and Paul was her professor.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll just move on from that. So he was quite a bit older.
Uh-huh.
They lived in Russellville, Arkansas. So Nona's dad, Paul, he died in 1996 because, as I said, he was a professor, so he was older. Mm-hmm. So he was 76. She was 10, and her dad was 76.
Oh, wow.
So, although everybody thought that Nona had a happy childhood, it wasn't until after her dad, Paul's death, that she told her best friend Chelsea that he had actually been sexually molesting her.
Oh, bloody hell.
So, but according to any adults who knew her, they described her as like a happy, carefree child. She was friendly, she was always laughing. So no one had a clue, like, you know, what was going on behind closed doors. There was just no indication, no signs, like, nothing for anyone to think that this poor child, mm-hmm. you know, was being abused.
Yeah, that's awful.
So, and, like, no one knew that she was having nightmares, she was depressed, she was self-harming. Like, nobody knew any of that.
Yeah, that's
but, so she never told anybody until one day in high school, she told her friend Chelsea that she had been cutting herself. No one could see the marks because they were under her clothes. But one day it was hot and she couldn't hide her most recent cuts. Mm-hmm. So there was one day Chelsea's mum, Margie, she was going to pick Nona up she was picking her up and taking her somewhere. Mm-hmm. So Chelsea had said to her mum, she was like, look, you're going to pick Nona up, you're going to see she's actually been self-harming.
Right.
So when Margie picked her up, she said that Nona had like plasters all over her legs.
Okay.
So she was like, Nona, why have you got plasters all over your legs? What's happened? Mm-hmm. And Nona had said that the cat had been scratching her. And Margie was like, nah, tell you somebody who believes you because I don't. Mm-hmm. What happened? Mm-hmm. And she broke down and told her about the abuse that she'd suffered from her dad.
Right.
And about harming herself. So Margie urged her to tell her mum, mm-hmm. and she did. So Nona's mum, Carol, was shocked. She had absolutely no inkling of what had been happening to her daughter. She said, quote, "It was horrible. It's such the end of my world. I just couldn't believe something like that would happen. But I know enough to know that she was telling the truth," end quote. So yeah, she knew her daughter well enough to know that she wouldn't lie about something like that. Mm-hmm. But obviously, imagine finding out, one, that's been happening to your daughter, but two, finding out that the person that you loved, your husband, was the one who was doing it to her, her own dad.
That's unimaginable.
No, absolutely awful. Mm-hmm. So Carol got Nona straight to counselling, and doctors put her on antidepressants, and by the time she was a senior, she had stopped self-harming and she was in a much better place mentally.
That's good.
At some point she started competing in beauty queen pageants, and like, you know how, well, I've never, but we don't really have that as much here, do we? It's
not a big thing.
No. So the only thing, they do have them because we have like Miss England and all that kind of stuff.
Around, but they're not as big as a deal as they are in America.
No, I mean the only thing that I know about beauty pageants is basically what I've seen in like movies and things like that.
Exactly.
But you know how like on stage, like each competitor will get asked a question. Like in the movies, they'll get, what do you care most about?
Yes.
And they usually say world peace. See, you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, they usually say world peace. But Nona was asked what she cared most about. She said child abuse. She says she wanted to use her platform to bring awareness to the issue of children being sexually abused.
Wow, okay.
She wasn't interested in the money or whatever prizes she won. She just wanted to help children because obviously she'd been through it herself. She wanted to help others.
Yeah.
So she won quite a few competitions, and she was the reigning Miss Pettigene Valley when she died.
Pettigene Valley?
Yeah,
okay.
yes. I looked that up because it's actually spelled P-E-T-I-T, as in petite.
Oh, okay.
But I looked up in how to pronounce it, and apparently it's pronounced Pettigene. So
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
hopefully I've got it right.
If not, well, you know, it's chilling. That's what we're used to. So.
But she was a reigning beauty queen when she died. So good on her.
Uh-huh.
So, as I said, using that platform for awareness, great.
Yeah, definitely.
So, Nona had a boyfriend called Kevin Jones, and they had known each other since kindergarten. They were best friends, and by the time they were about 14, they became boyfriend and girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
And they were really close, like, they saw each other all the time, they loved each other's families, and each other's families, like, loved them, and the families were sure that they would eventually get married.
Right, okay.
You know, it was just, they came as a package. It was Nona and Kevin, you know.
Yeah.
Everybody all loved everybody else. It was all great.
Cool.
So, however, in their senior year of high school, Kevin actually finished with Nona because he fancied another girl and started going out with her.
Right.
So Nona was gutted.
Uh-huh.
She started skipping school because it was just too hard for her to see him with another girl.
Yeah.
She would just stay in bed, and she stopped eating, and she even thought about suicide.
Good.
As she just couldn't imagine her life without Kevin. But after about a month, Kevin realised that he'd made a mistake, and he asked Nona to take him back. So they got back
like
together.
Adulthood here. It's like not fucking just.
Well, they have been with each other for a while. They've known each other since kindergarten. You know.
But still had a whole life ahead of them, and
I know, but they got back together, so it was all good. So as time passed, they talked about marriage, and Kevin said that he did ask Nona to marry him, but they didn't make it official because they didn't have any money, and they decided to wait until after college. There was no rush. They had the rest of their lives to get married and have kids. They even talked about what their kids' names would be, and as far as they were concerned, this was it. This was the real thing. They were a solid couple and a very happy relationship. In 2004, Nona and Kevin both started the Arkansas Tech University, which was in Nona's hometown of Russellville. But in 2005, Kevin transferred to the University of Arkansas, which is about an hour and a half away. But they still carried on as normal. They just didn't get to see each other as often.
right.
Nona's mum, Carol, she got remarried to a guy called Dwayne Dipert, and she sold the family home to move in with him. But he was a bit strict and he had rules. No cats or dogs were allowed in the house. But this was a problem because Nona had 2 cats and a dog.
Oh.
But he was like, no. So I was like, okay. So if Nona were to live there, she would have a strict curfew of 9 p.m. Like, she's an adult now. She's
I was just going to say, come on.
she's at college now, you know.
Aye.
So she's 18, 19 or whatever. And
Yeah.
so she was like, do you know what? Nah.
I mean, I don't blame her, to be honest.
Because he was like, the doors were always... Because I heard there is a podcast. I would tell you what it was called if I could actually remember. But I actually only listened to the first episode, I think it was. I can't remember. One of the first, second episode, I can't remember. And he was actually on it, and he said, the doors were locked at 10 o'clock every night, so the curfew was 9. It had to be in it. So if you went in by 9 o'clock, then the doors would just get locked.
And that would be you.
And that would be you. And he also said nothing ever good happens after 10 o'clock at night. So that's why he had that rule. And I'm like, plenty good things happen after 10 o'clock at night.
Well, I was going to say, I'm sure they do, yeah. I mean, it's up to you if you want to be a person that's, happy to be in the house and at home by that time, that's cool. But there are other people out there that are maybe just beginning their night doing something or...
Lots of good things happen.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
That's a stupid saying for them, but... Okay.
So... by now, Nona was 18 and she was like, no thanks, that's not for me. She obviously didn't want to get rid of her pets, which totally understand. And she didn't want to have to be in by 9 p.m. Totally. I mean, what 18-year-old would?
No, exactly.
So she decided to move out and get her own apartment. So she was still in the same town. So she was still really close to her mum. And she moved into a place called the Inglewood Apartments. So, as I said, I think she was 5 minutes away or something.
Yeah. Oh.
And it was also better for her relationship with Kevin because since he had dumped her in in high school, our mum and her stepdad were like not as keen, because remember before they'd all been one big happy family, but then it was like, we don't really trust you anymore, because if you can do that to her, you could do it again, you know.
Yeah, which is harsh in some ways, because I mean,
Yeah,
you were
I know.
younger and you don't really know what you want in life at that point. So I mean, it happens, but fair enough.
Yeah, that's they're perfectly entitled to feel the way that they feel,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
they didn't trust him anymore. So it was now much easier not being under their watchful eye when Kevin came to visit. On the 14th of December 2005, Kevin was going home for the Christmas holidays, because remember, he was away an hour and a half away. So he was living out on the campus at his university.
Right.
So he came home for the Christmas holidays. So his parents lived in Dover, which is 9 miles away from Russellville, where Nona lived.
Right.
So on the way back from uni, he went to Nona's house first and sort of hung out with her before he went home with his parents. So they just spent some time together, just hanging out, discussing what they were doing the following day, because they weren't going to be seeing each other the following day. They both had separate plans.
Yeah.
So they were just talking about that. Like, Nona, she was part of a programme where older kids are assigned a younger kid to sort of be like a mentor to them. So it's called, I wasn't actually sure what the actual proper name of it was, but like, she is called a big sister, and she would be looking after a little girl called the little sister.
Oh, right, okay.
And it was for the little sister would obviously be a child that was having problems. Like, I don't know if they were necessarily sexually abused, but they'd be having like maybe problems at home and, needed. So Nona was her mentor, so she had a little sister that wasn't related. So she was meeting up with her little sister the following day. She had a couple of finals exams to do that day as well, one before meeting her little sister and one after. And Kevin, he was going to be taking his mum, Janice, to a Christmas party the following night. It was a work thing, and he had agreed to be her date for the evening because his dad was out of town.
Right.
So she was busy during the day, and he was busy at night, so that's why they weren't going to see each other.
Yeah, which is fair enough.
So about midnight, as I said, like he came home, spent some time with her. About midnight on the 14th, Kevin drove home to his parents. Then when he got home, he called Nona just to say, I'm here, I got here okay. They chatted for a wee while before going to sleep. So the following day, the 15th of December 2005, Nona texts Kevin just after 9 a.m. saying, "Bleh, good morning, Cuddle Muffin."
Cuddle Muffin. Okay.
Although I did actually read a couple of different things, and one it was like Cuddle Muffin, another one I think it was like Love Muffin or something like that, so I'm not actually sure, but something along the lines. I love you, have a great day. So it was just a, good morning text. So she said that she would call him after her exam that morning, but she never did. So he called her a few times later on, because he's like, why she not phone me? So he phoned her and that, but she never answered.
No.
She also didn't turn up to meet her little sister that afternoon or the other exam. But she had the other exam that she had later in the day. So he texted her at 4:30 saying, "Are you alive?" But again, no reply. So of course Kevin
That's
was...
the kind of thing I text you, isn't it? Are you alive?
Well, actually, they do make a bit of a thing of that, like, in this case, like, why is he texting it? And I'm like, that's a normal thing to text, Are you alive? You texted me it last week.
Yeah.
Because you messaged me and went, are you alive?
And you were like, why wouldn't I be?
And I was like, why wouldn't I be? Why wouldn't I have been alive? I don't know why I wouldn't have
Oh,
been.
no, because remember you said you were going out on the bike. Was that when you went out on the bike with John?
No, I don't know.
But but I do that quite often when I've not heard from you from a while. I'm like, are you alive?
Yeah.
Like, have you dropped down dead or something?
That's normal.
Obviously, we just say it as a joke.
Yes.
Because it's just like
why have you not answered me? Where are you?
Yeah,
what
exactly.
are you doing?
Like, I mean, I think there was one day, remember, we were like in mid-conversation and I think you'd left your phone kind of open, so my messages were kept pinging and then you weren't answering me and I'm like, are you alive? Like, have you died? Like, are you on the floor? Like, what's going on? So
yeah, that's a pretty normal thing.
I wouldn't say
but they did try to make something out of that.
Yeah.
But no. So of course Kevin was worried. He hadn't heard from her by 6 p.m. when he was taking his mum to the Christmas party. And they'd got in the car and he was driving his mum and he was telling his mum what was going on, and like he was telling his mum like, I'm really worried. So he actually had a friend called Ryan who was a pizza delivery guy in Russellville. So he was like, do you know what, I'm going to phone him and ask him if he could swing past Nona's apartment.
Yeah.
So he phoned him and he says, if you've got time between deliveries, any chance you could swing back past Nona's apartment, just see if her car's there.
Yeah.
So Ryan was like, yep, no bother. He must have been pretty close by anyway, because it was just a few minutes later, and he called Kevin back and he said Nona's car was outside the apartment and the light was on in her apartment. So Kevin was going knock on the door, just go and see if she's all right. But he went and knocked on the door and he was like, nah, mate, no answer.
Yeah.
So Kevin and his mum Janice were like, right, sack this Christmas party off. We need to go and see if she's all right. So they went over to Nona's apartment because it was just weird. Ryan waited there for them, and when they got there, Kevin knocked on the door, but again, no answer. They tried to open the door, but it was locked. They went round the back where she had patio doors, and but she always had like a thing called a burglar bar on the doors.
All right, okay.
So basically, a burglar bar. It would be just like if you had like patio doors and you put like a broomstick.
Aye, yeah.
And
like a bar.
Yeah,
I get you.
Well, you were looking a bit confused, so that's why.
Oh no, because I thought you were going to explain it to me, so I was waiting for like a. Then that's what I was thinking in my head, that's probably what you meant.
So like she always had this burglar bar on the patio doors, but it wasn't there this time, which Kevin was like, that's weird, because she always has that burglar bar on.
Right.
The door was locked, but he and Ryan, they actually managed to pry it open, which, that's a bit scary.
Yeah.
I'm glad I don't have patio doors.
No, because if it's that easy, then yeah, it's not great.
No, which is probably why she always had the burglar bar on it.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But as soon as they got into the living room, they saw Nona lying on the floor, naked, apart from a pair of white socks. And she was face down with blood all around her. So Kevin ran to her and, tried to wake her, because at that point they didn't know if she was like dead or alive. And Janice called 911, and when emergency services arrived, Nona was pronounced dead. So Nona's face was unrecognisable, as it had been beaten so bad.
Wow.
There was blood everywhere. Her bra and a pair of jeans were beside her body. The jeans were inside out, and her knickers were in the corner of the room, and there was a broken lamp on the floor. She had been stabbed in the neck and shoulder several times and had been beaten over the head and face with the base of the broken lamp. And there was blood on the light bulb and on the base. There was also blood on the blinds and near the front door and the patio door, but for some reason, samples of that blood weren't taken from those places.
Really?
Neither were fingerprints.
Really?
The police didn't, and the police didn't even go upstairs. She had an upstairs, and
Right.
they didn't even go upstairs to look for evidence there. Like, what?
Well, I mean, again, no police expert, but surely you check every possible place in a crime scene, and anything that you do find, you take samples of, or you pick up, if it's a bit of evidence, and you seal it in a bag and for testing.
We've watched all these crime shows. We know how it works.
It does baffle me, like, time and time again, how things are not done.
I know.
Like,
It's
especially by people who are trained to deal with these situations.
And surely that is just basic training to learn that stuff.
I feel like if us that are, like, nobody, we sort of realise that, if there was, like, evidence and blood spatter and, places to be searched in a crime scene, then surely that's common sense to check all that, no?
Well, I think so.
I mean, I think so.
I'm sure everybody else who's listening thinks so. So there was no evidence of sexual assault or rape. So they were like, well, why is she naked? But there was no sign of forced entry, and there was a condom wrapper on the table. So maybe that's why she was naked, but we can't just assume that, as we don't know how long that wrapper was there for, obviously. But I mean, just because there was no evidence of sexual assault or rape doesn't mean it didn't happen. I mean, if somebody wears a condom and they're not forceful, you might not. So there is a possibility. Her stepdad did mention that she was really messy. So that's why they're like, well, we don't know how long this wrapper's been left for, because she's a messy person. She doesn't tidy up like every day. But actually, I shouldn't be dissing the stepdad, because that's not very nice. But he mentioned that she was really messy, and he had only been to her house once, and he never went again because he didn't like how untidy it was. So it's likely that the condom wrapper could have been there for a while. And I thought,
Really?
This is a guy, no pets, no, you have to be in by 9 o'clock. I'm not coming to your house because it's messy.
It's a bit. It's not something I would want to get involved in. I mean, at the end of the day, I like to have things tidy as much as the next person, but I also make a mess at times. And, because I live in my house, so it's never going to be like pristine.
But I'm not going to not go to somebody's house because it's messy.
Well, exactly. I've been in plenty of people's houses that I've been like, oh, it's a bit messy in here, but not enough that I go, oh my god, I'm never coming again.
Can I just point out that Laura walked in here into the pod room and pointed at an empty can of Lucasade and went, "Is that mine from the last time I was here?"
Yeah, which was what, a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, about 2 weeks ago. It's sitting on top of the dog cage, and
where I left it,
where she left it, is still there. So you still came back, thanks.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's what I said. Unless there was like rats running around your house or something, maybe I would consider it then. But it's a bit of mess. Like I say, we all make mess. Do you know what I mean? Nobody's perfect. And I don't care. I don't actually care.
No, I don't care either. But the point of that was that he was saying that the condom wrapper could have been there for a while because
she didn't tidy up.
She didn't tidy up all the time. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So Kevin was absolutely covered in Nona's blood because obviously he'd ran over, he'd been cradling her, like cuddling her. He tried to give her CPR. So I think the police just jumped to the conclusion that he was the murderer. And I think that's why they didn't do a very good job of processing the crime scene. I think they were just like, oh, that's him.
But surely the minute they spoke to his mum and the delivery guy friend, he wasn't there.
Not at that point.
Not at that point. It wasn't. No.
So he was taken to the police station straight away for questioning and was let go when they didn't have enough evidence to arrest him. He had said, he was like, I didn't murder Nona, I loved her. I would never hurt her. Mm-hmm. And the police footage that you can see on YouTube, he was visibly upset in the police station. He was rocking backwards and forth. He was crying. He told the officers that he would do anything to prove that he was innocent. So they interviewed lots of people, including other men that Nona had been seeing. Kevin didn't know that.
Oh, okay.
But she had casually been seeing other men. I don't think all of them were in a sexual way. I think she was just making new friends, and maybe some of them happened to be male. She had female friends as well, obviously. But I think there was some that she'd sort of, at least one anyway, that she'd been sort of casually seeing. But police managed to clear all of these other people, but they were still suspicious of Kevin.
Okay.
So when the autopsy results came back, the injury that caused Nona's death was a blow to the back of her head, which was done by the heavy metal base of the lamp that had been broken on the floor next to her body. Other injuries were that her face had been severely beaten, her brain was bruised and exposed, a bone in her neck was broken, and she had 17 stab wounds. Her approximate time of death was between 10 a.m. and 12:30 p.m. on the 15th of December 2005. So she had messaged Kevin about 9, or just after 9, I think it was.
Yeah.
And then her time of death was between 10 and 12:30.
Right, okay.
So 6 days later, the 21st of December, that was the day of Nona's viewing, in the funeral home.
Yeah.
So our mum, Carol, had asked Kevin to pick out Nona's clothes and help choose a coffin for her. So obviously she didn't think he was guilty.
No.
And considering she hadn't liked him very much lately, I thought that was a nice thing for her to do, to still include him. Mm-hmm. So anyway, the viewing was at the funeral home, and Carol asked Kevin to be there at 4 p.m. to be with the family at their private time with Nona, and then stand with them later as they greeted anyone else who came to say their goodbyes to Nona. Mm-hmm. So she was totally including him, totally, part of the family, which, as I said, because she'd been suspicious of him, since he had dumped Nona before, I thought it was a really nice thing for her to do.
100%, yeah.
So Kevin and his friend Brandon, they decided to go shopping that morning to get something to wear for the viewing. They were in Fayetteville, which is where Kevin went to college. This is the hour and a half away.
Oh, right, yeah.
So they went shopping there, and then they were going to go to Russellville. So while they were shopping, Kevin's roommate's brother got in contact with him and said that he thought he had seen Nona on the day that she died. He said that she was driving her car near the college about 1 p.m.
All right, okay.
So Kevin called the lead detective, Mark Frost, who, by the way, had never worked on a homicide before.
Oh, wow.
So this was his first time.
Wow.
I think we can tell later on.
Yes, he maybe some more experience.
Yeah. So he was like, "Okay, thanks for letting us know, but could you just come down into the station because there's a few things that we want to ask you." Mm-hmm. So Kevin was like, well, Nona's visitation's at 4 p.m. And Detective Frost said, don't worry, you'll be in and out. Just want to ask a few questions and you'll be at the visitation in plenty of time.
Right.
The viewing, visitation,
Yeah.
whatever.
Aye. Okay.
So Fayetteville's about 2 hours from Russellville. So it mustn't have been quite well, because I thought it was an hour and a half. Anyway.
Roughly.
Yeah. Anyway, so a couple of hours from Russellville. So Kevin and Brandon were like, right, jumped in the car and drove to the police station. It was already just after 1. Mm-hmm. So by the time they got to the police station, it'd be like 3 o'clock and the viewing was at 4. Mm-hmm. So, and they actually got pulled over by the police for speeding. Okay. But they got let off with a warning when they explained that they were rushing to the police station. So they explained to the officer. The officer phoned the police station. Right. And the detective was like, yeah, he's coming to see me. Don't worry, just let him go.
Yeah.
So they didn't actually get to the station till 4 p.m.
Oh, fuck.
So Kevin called his mum Janice and said he'd be as quick as he could and he would just meet her at the funeral home because he was obviously going to pick her up.
Yeah.
But the police had other ideas. They asked about the guy who thought he saw Nona on, what he'd actually phoned him about in the first place, the roommate's brother.
Yeah.
But then just went on to interrogate Kevin again about his movements on that day. Kevin was confused because he'd already told them all this, like more than once. But he told them about seeing her the night before, told them about the text the following morning. Mm-hmm. And then they were like, right, well, can you go over the next day again? So he was like, right. He said he'd got up. There was a plumber coming out to the house to fix his parents' house, mm-hmm. to fix a leaky bath. So he had to be in for that, for him coming. And then he said he cleaned his room. At 11 a.m, he drove over to the gas station that his family owned and he talked to his grandma who was working there. Right. And also a guy called Blake who worked there as well. He said he then went to a cafe for lunch. Mm-hmm. And then drove to Russellville and did a few errands there. He caught up with some friends, took some money out of the cash machine, emailed his college advisor, and then he went back to the family gas station and he worked there for a couple of hours. Then he went home to get ready for the Christmas party. So that was him, totally, his day. Mm-hmm. So Detective Frost then asked if Kevin would take a polygraph. So Kevin went, yes, of course I will. Like, if there's anything I can do to clear my name,
well, yeah, you're going to do it.
I'm going to do it. Mm-hmm. He was like, I'll do a polygraph, I'll do DNA, anything. Mm-hmm. So the Detective Frost was like, great. The guy who does the what would you call him? A
polygrapher.
The guy who does the test. I can't say that.
Polygrapher. So
he was actually there in the station at the time. So, do you want to do it now? And Kevin was like, yeah, let's get this over and done with. Mm-hmm. So they'd said to him, look, if you pass this test, then this is going to eliminate you once and for all. So of course he was desperate to get it over and done with. Mm-hmm. But the polygraph didn't clear him because he failed. And the tester told Kevin that he had never seen anyone fail as bad as he did.
All right.
And he told Kevin that he had no doubt in his mind that Kevin did kill Nona. This is all on video as well.
Oh, is it? Right.
Yeah, so he said, I've got no doubt in my mind that you killed Nona.
Right, okay.
So he was now being interrogated by 3 police officers and they told him that they had evidence that he killed Nona. There was a bloody palm print on the lamp mm-hmm. next to her body, which was the murder weapon, and it matched Kevin's. Kevin had previously been asked if he touched the lamp and he had said no. So because he had said no and there was a print on the base and on the bulb, uh-huh. they were like, well, you're lying. But he's like, well, to me, I'm like, but how can you remember what you touched in that moment? Yeah, you're rushing to your
Because I mean, to be
girlfriend.
fair, I mean, maybe it was next to her and he moved out of the way.
Exactly.
I mean, it could have, but as you said, a lot's going on, so you might not remember every single thing you've touched or the details or whatever.
And the thing is, right, the palm print on the base was still wet and sticky. So if Kevin had killed Nona that morning, it wouldn't, surely it's still not going to be wet.
No, so it's more likely he's obviously got to her, got blood on his hands, and he's maybe just put his hand down or knocked it or whatever.
That's it. Exactly what it must have been. He must have touched it, but he's forgotten that he's touched it, so he said that he didn't.
Realised that he's really touched it.
Well, that's what I mean, just shoving things out the way to get to his girlfriend because she's lying there in a puddle of blood.
Exactly.
But the officers were like, nah, your prints are on the lamp, so it must have been you. So this Detective Frost, whose first homicide it was, just mention that again, is on camera telling Kevin the only way it could have got there was during the crime. So I don't know where he got his training because that would mean Kevin had literally just killed Nona before the police got there. If that's what he's saying, that happened when you were killing her.
Yeah.
That would have happened just there and then before the police were called.
Exactly.
But we know that didn't happen because he was with his mum and
his mate.
Ryan. I think it was Ryan. Yeah, so he didn't kill her just before the police were called.
No.
And we know that didn't happen anyway because the time of death had been between 10 a.m. and 12:30.
Well, exactly.
So, and I've got to say, from the video footage that I watched of Detective Frost, I don't think much of this guy at all. Mm-hmm. He was shouting at Kevin. He was like, they were sitting quite close to each other, probably closer than what me and you are now. Mm-hmm. And they were sitting quite close together, and he's shouting at Kevin, saying, I know you did this, I know you did it. And it was just not professional in the slightest.
Did he just want, because it was like his first homicide,
he just wanted to get somebody for it?
Aye, like get it under his belt, like, yes, you know, I've solved a homicide. And
probably.
Because, you know, try to impress, you know, that's probably, sounds like maybe that's what he's trying to do, rather than taking a minute to really consider the facts and, you know, all the evidence. And
I've never seen because like we're doing this podcast, I've watched a lot of police interviews. Mm-hmm. And I don't think I've ever seen one like that, like the way he was shouting at him. I've seen them maybe... Usually they're sitting quite calmly, because that's probably what you're trained to do, to try and... To me, the way to get answers out of people is not to scream in their face.
No.
And,
but let's say, it just sounds like he was, you know, because you're saying it was his first one, he was obviously just trying to, like, make it a... You know, make a big impression to people that... He wanted to, like, be good and get somebody and...
And, like, Kevin, he was just getting riled up, which is understandable, because if you're getting accused, somebody's shouting in your face, like, you know... So, and rather than calming the situation and being a professional, this Detective Frost is just shouting back at him, like, pointing in his face, and honestly, it was like two teenagers, like, older teenagers, like, having an argument. That's what it was like. Mm. And they also told him that his alibi didn't add up, and that his times were off. So the guy, Blake, that Kevin had talked to who worked at the gas station, said that he didn't remember seeing Kevin that morning. He said he remembered him that afternoon, but he didn't remember him that morning. Mm-hmm. So that meant that there was time unaccounted for, because they're believing that this guy didn't see him.
Yeah.
So they're not going, oh, maybe he didn't remember, or, you know, no, he didn't see him. Yeah. So time was unaccounted for between 11 a.m. and 12 p.m. So they said that he could have left his parents' house in Dover, driven to Russellville, killed Nona, and then made it back to Dover in time for lunch at the cafe, where there was obviously witnesses and knew they were there. Yeah. And Kevin was like, well, did you ask my grandma? Because he spoke to his grandma that morning. Mm-hmm. And the officer said, well, I don't know if your grandma was spoken to, but I know that Blake was spoken to and he didn't see you.
Well, yeah, but if there was another witness, then you got to go and speak to the bloody...
Go and speak to the grandma then!
Well, exactly.
Honestly. So... Remember, I said that Nona, sorry, I was going to say her name wrong there, Nona was seeing other men. Mm-hmm. Well, she got a text at 11 a.m. on the day of her death from a guy called Trey. So, police, who she was, I think she was casually seeing. So, police thought that Kevin had been at Nona's when she got that text, and he was so angry that he killed her.
Well, that was their theory.
Yeah, that's their theory. By now, it was 7 p.m, and Nona's visitation finished at 8. Mm-hmm. Kevin's dad was actually at the police station by now, trying to find out what was going on, but he wasn't told anything. His mum, Janice, got a call from Nona's mum, Carol, whose friend was a lawyer and was somehow in the know. And the lawyer told them that he hadn't been arrested, so Kevin was actually free to leave, but Kevin wouldn't have known that because nobody told him that he was free to leave. Like, he thought that he had to stay. I mean, he could have just said, look, I've got this visitation. Okay, but obviously he didn't know that. Mm-hmm. So Janice spoke to another lawyer, and she told her to get down to the police station and get as close to Kevin as she could and bang on walls or doors and shout to tell him that he was free to leave. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what she did. Right. His dad actually broke a wall with a chair. He didn't realise the walls were so thin because he was just trying to get attention. So he was like, picked up the chair and banged against the wall to be like, Kevin, you can leave. And he got arrested. So he was taken away to the detention centre, where he was fined $500 for malicious mischief.
Oh dear.
So Kevin was let go without being arrested, and these police officers thought it was a good idea to go over to Nona's mum's house and tell her that Kevin had killed her daughter.
For God's sake.
They told her that he was a narcissistic psychopath killer. That was their words.
Wow.
even though he hadn't been diagnosed by a mental health professional with anything.
No.
Basically, that's just what the police decided. They decided that he was narcissistic. He was a psychopath.
What? Saying that about
I
people,
know.
right?
No, you can't do that, and you can't go and say, "Oh, by the way, this guy killed your daughter," when he's not even been arrested.
Oh, exactly. That's awful.
So of course, Carol believed the police because you would, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I suppose you would. Yeah.
Because she would have assumed that they had the evidence to come and say this, and a week later, like, they had a press conference. And the police told the press that they knew who the murderer was, although they didn't mention the suspect's name. But according to the community, the police they know who the murderer is, so it'll just be a matter of time before it gets charged and whatnot. But I mean, obviously, everyone knew in the community knew that they were talking about Kevin anyway, because like news travels fast,
Yes, absolutely.
And it did look like he was the one. The community knew that he was the one who found her. He was covered in her blood. His prints were on the murder weapon. He missed the funeral, the viewing, the visitation thing, and he failed the polygraph. So with all that put together, it does look like he was the one.
I can see that, yeah.
So Kevin was arrested on the 31st of March 2006, so this was about 3 months after Nona's death, and he was charged with murder.
Okay.
His parents 100% believed that he was innocent, but they still put up they had a farm, so they put that up as collateral so that they could get him the best defence lawyers. So the first thing that the lawyers did was get him a change of venue for the trial, because in Russellville everybody was convinced that he had done it, so you wouldn't get a fair trial there. Yeah. So they moved it. So the trial was in July 2007. So the prosecution were saying that Kevin killed Nona in a jealous rage because she'd been seeing other men. But the defence went for Detective Frost and called it a shoddy police work. They said that he tried to coerce a confession out of Kevin and basically didn't really look into other possible suspects. The court heard that they didn't search the upstairs of Nona's apartment, and they actually only focused on the area that Kevin had been in.
Right, okay.
And they didn't even test for like footprints or anything either.
Jesus.
So the defence didn't deny that Kevin's handprint was on the lamp, but he probably just moved out of the way while trying to get to Nona, which is what we said. And as for the polygraph test, that guy who tested Kevin wasn't even a qualified
polygrapher.
Yeah.
Who the hell was he then? What was he in the station for, and why did they?
Well, I think he was just a police officer who worked in the station. It was just a sham. It wasn't a proper test. Like, it was just to try and get a confession out of Kevin. That's why they done it. They knew, like, obviously this Detective Frost is like, well, we know he's not qualified, whatever you call him. But if we give him it and he fails it, then that might get a confession out of him. So that's what they did. They told him that he had failed it.
That's terrible.
Absolutely. And so remember I said that there was a condom wrapper in the apartment. Well, apparently it had been tested and came back with no fingerprints or DNA on it. But the defence had it tested again, and it did have DNA on it.
Right. And
it wasn't Kevin's. After 8 hours of deliberation, the jury came back with their verdict: not guilty. So although he had been acquitted, many people still believed that he was the murderer. And even Nona's stepdad, Dwayne, he even stood up in the court and said, "You got away with it, Kevin, you got away with it." So it was back to the drawing board for the police. They made a list of 50 possible suspects and started investigating again. Maybe you should have done it properly in the first place.
Absolutely.
Anyway, so they brought in a guy called Todd Steffi, and he was a full-time pastor and a part-time police officer, and he said that he would solve this case and leave no stone unturned. So the first thing he did was get the condom wrapper. The first thing he did was test the condom wrapper DNA to all the guys that Nona had been talking to, but not one of their DNA matched the wrapper.
Right.
He found a classmate of Nona's called Alex. Nona and Alex had been out on a few dates. They'd exchanged some flirty texts, and in these texts they had talked about sex, and Nona had told him that she didn't like using condoms.
Right.
So why was there a condom wrapper there? Was it Alex's? Was he just saying that to put them off the scent? That he wouldn't have been using a condom with Nona because she didn't like them? But if that's true and she didn't like them and didn't use them, then why was there one there?
Yeah, exactly.
So to me that would be has somebody kind of raped her?
Yeah.
Anyway, so Todd, the pastor, actually set up a sneaky wee way of getting his DNA, Alex's DNA. I don't actually know why he couldn't go about in the normal police way and say, right, can I get your DNA? But he got someone to go on a date with Alex, and they went to a restaurant, and he got the waiter to get Alex's straw for him so he could check his DNA against the wrapper. And it wasn't his. So,
Okay.
Why could he not just been like, you're under investigation, so we're going to take your DNA?
Well, yeah, duh.
I don't know, I didn't quite get that.
Yeah, no, that sounds a bit random.
So it looked like they were getting nowhere fast until a guy from Nona's apartment complex was arrested for something else. His name was Gary Dunn, and when he was brought in, the investigators on Nona's case were like, oh yeah, we recognise him, because he was one of the original suspects on Nona's case. But they had quickly ruled him out because he said he was shopping when Nona was murdered, and he'd also passed a polygraph test.
Oh, a proper one?
I have no idea, but I would never trust a polygraph test anyway. Whether the person passed it or not.
I would never, agree to take one because,
No.
like, I would hate to be telling the truth and then they come back and tell me, oh, no, you're not. Because, like, it's like, well,
Yeah.
I don't think they're that accurate.
They're not reliable, and it pisses me off that the way people use them is, if you pass a test, then yes, it's 100%, we believe it, but if you fail it, no, you're lying. And it's like, but that's not always the case. Like, so you can only rely on them when you're passing it, and not when you're failing it, because people are like, well, no, I'm telling the truth. And anyway,
I mean, I just personally, no matter what, even if I had nothing to hide and I knew it was all the truth I'd be saying, I still wouldn't want to take one because I just wouldn't.
And I think
I'd be worried in the back of my head going,
you just took the words out of my mouth.
And does that cause it to then think that you're lying because you're now stressing about how you are telling, you're telling the truth, but
and your anxiety levels will be going up.
No,
So is that going to indicate that you're lying?
Exactly, because I think sometimes for me, like when I know I've been telling the truth about something, it maybe seems like you can maybe overdo it because you're telling the truth, but you feel like you really have to sell that to somebody.
Totally.
And make them believe you. So does that cause your, like say, your anxiety levels, your stress levels to kind of go up because you're sort of like, oh no, I need this person to believe me, and I definitely am. So yeah, just be able to take it.
Us at CrimeDivers podcast do not believe in polygraphs.
Absolutely not.
So this guy, Gary Dunn. So Todd the pastor wanted to look at him again because he lived so close to Nona, and his bedroom actually looked into hers. And because at the time of Nona's murder, Gary was on parole. In 2002, he had been convicted of attempted murder and second-degree battery. He had attacked a woman who had been jogging. Gary was like sitting on a bench and on the jogging path, and this woman was jogging along, and he just jumped out on this woman with a big stick in his hand and started hitting her over the head with it, screaming that he was going to kill her.
Wow, and he was overlooked.
Yeah, because he was shopping.
Right, okay.
So he had went to prison for 18 months, and when he was released, he moved into the Inglewood apartments. So Todd, the pastor, was like, okay, well, we need to look into this guy again and get his DNA. So Gary said that he didn't really know Nona. He had seen her around, but he'd never been in her apartment. They asked for his DNA, and he was like, yeah, of course, like, no problem. Let them take the DNA. Todd wanted to check Gary's alibi again, and as I said before, he said he was shopping when Nona was murdered. He said he was with his mum, and his mum's credit card receipts had been looked at, and they'd showed the date of, when she was murdered. But to stop, so that had been enough for the police the first time. They had checked that.
Yeah.
But this time, Todd was like, no, he went one step further, and he went to the bank, and he was like, right, just because these times and dates are on the receipt, is it possible that the card could have been used at a different time, but it's only just recorded and printed on the 15th? And they were like, yeah. So those
like a
transactions...
pending transaction, and then they're processed officially on a...
It's processed on that... So actually processed on the date.
I don't know about you, but I don't know how closely you look at your bank, but I sometimes see stuff that's pending, and then, like, when it's cleared through, it can sometimes be a different date.
Yeah, so, totally. Like, I mean, I look at mine, I mean, I could pay something online on the Friday, but it doesn't actually come off until like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, something like that.
I'm sure it's got that date on it sometimes, isn't it?
So Yeah, so, they just obviously hadn't looked that much into it. They'd seen the dates and the times and went, yeah, right, okay, cleared. But yeah, it was possible that the cards hadn't been used on that date. So that meant that Gary didn't have a solid alibi. Todd went to some of the stores that Gary had been to, but they didn't keep electronic records. But one guy in one of the stores, he raked through his thousands of receipts because he was like, no, I'm really going to help you.
Yeah.
And he went through thousands of receipts until he found the ones from Martha and Gary Dunn, and he found them. And they were dated the 13th of December, not the 15th. So that it was 2 days before the murder that they were shopping.
Right.
But it came off on the credit card as the 15th.
Right.
So they had been shopping, it had just been 2 days before Nona's murder. So Todd also tracked down Gary's ex-wife, and she said that Gary did know Nona. A while back, her cat had gone missing, and he helped her look for it, and it was actually him who found the cat.
Right.
And the ex-wife said that he probably actually stole the cat in the first place so that he could return it to get close to Nona, because obviously she knows him. She knows what he's like. This is the kind of thing that this guy does, apparently.
Right, okay.
And she also said that one night, round about midnight, she couldn't find Gary. She was looking for him, because he was like, where is he? He's not in the apartment, like, where is he? And she found him lurking outside Nona's apartment, just having a wee peek,
Yeah.
And although he had told the police that he'd been shopping with his mum when Nona had been murdered, he had told his wife at the time that he had been at work on a construction site.
Right, okay.
But then later he told his wife that he hadn't actually been on the construction site, he had been at home. So he's telling her all different stories, and he's telling the police different stories. And so the DNA results came back from the condom wrapper, and it was a partial match to Gary. The fingerprints came back as consistent to Gary's DNA, but not enough to be a legal match. I don't know how that works.
No.
That's what they said.
Fair enough.
So he was arrested and charged with Nona's murder, and his trial was in April 2010. So the prosecution said that he used her lost cat as a way to get friendly with her, and so that on the day of the murder, she probably did let him into the apartment, because remember, there was no forced entry.
Yeah.
Because she knew him. He raped her with a condom so that he wouldn't leave DNA.
But she completely left the wrapper.
And he killed her so that he wouldn't be put back in prison. So, like, for the rape. So that's why he killed her, so that he wouldn't get put back in prison.
But he was obviously confident it wasn't going to get done for murder.
Exactly. Because remember, he was on parole when he did it. They couldn't tell the court about his previous conviction, because that would have that could have swayed the jury. So the jury had no idea what kind of violent man this was. They only knew from the evidence of this case. But his defence was that Kevin was the murderer. But everyone was lying for Kevin, and that's why they turned to Gary, because they couldn't get Kevin.
Right, okay.
That was his defence. So they also argued that there was no other DNA or fingerprints left by Gary except for on the condom wrapper. But Kevin's were. But then Kevin's her boyfriend, so obviously his. But there were fingerprints in the middle of the lamp pole, but they didn't belong to either Gary or Kevin.
Right.
So his defence said that maybe it was somebody else altogether who killed Nona. Because if you're going to kill with a lamp, then surely that's where your hand would be in the middle of it.
Well, you think so, yeah.
So, I don't know. So the trial ended in a hung jury. They said that there just wasn't enough evidence to convince them all that he was guilty. So a retrial was set, and he was put in prison until that time, because remember, he was on parole.
Yes,
so
of course, yeah.
Put him in prison. So this trial also ended in a hung jury. They said that it was partly because of the partial match to DNA. Because, as I said, it wasn't like a legal match. It was...
Yeah.
And also because why was the condom wrapper there anyway? Like, if the murderer... You kind of pointed it out. If the murderer had gone to the effort of wearing gloves, so there were no fingerprints, like...
Why would it be so careless?
Why would they leave a condom wrapper? It just didn't make sense. So Gary Dunn was a free man.
Wow.
So 13 years after Nona's murder, in December 2018, Gary tried to force a woman into his car outside a church. She managed to get away, but that same day he indecently exposed himself to another woman in a car park. He was charged with 2 counts of attempted kidnapping and indecent exposure. So in November 2019, he was sentenced to 15 years in prison.
Wow.
So that's where he is now. He is in prison. He's not been charged with Nona's murder, but he is in prison, so at least he's off the streets, because he is a dangerous man, whether or not he did it.
Yeah.
And as for Kevin, in 2014, he sued Detective Frost for withholding evidence, but unfortunately the statute of limitations had ran out, so the case was dismissed.
Right.
But he's now happily married. He attended law school, and he's now a criminal defence attorney in Russellville. Wow. He made peace with Carol, Nona's mum, and she says she no longer believes that he killed Nona, and she truly loves him.
Yeah. Wow.
So what do you think?
I think it's Gary. By the sounds of it.
I don't think Kevin did it.
I don't think it's Kevin.
No.
It doesn't sound like it's Kevin. Unfortunately, it is just the typical stereotype, the boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they obviously go for him. But, you know, as you said, it's in the heat of the moment, he might not remember, obviously, what he's touched. The whole polygraph thing was a lot of nonsense. So this guy, I think the detective, if it was his first homicide, clearly was trying to be the big man and, you know, solve it quick and, you know, show that he was good at his job, which, you know, in turn made him sloppy, potentially. But the other guy, Gary, sounds the more likely culprit.
It sounds the more likely.
I mean, I know there's obviously clearly a slight doubt, which is clearly why he's got off with it. But considering his track record previous and after, and his, you know, all the things that I think if I was having to put my money on it, I would probably say it was him.
But imagine if it was somebody completely somebody else.
I mean, obviously
it could be, because there was that DNA in the middle of the lamp.
But done well to get away with it then.
Yeah, I mean the DNA in the middle of the lamp, that could have been anybody. That could have been like a friend that she'd had over.
That's where I think these things are very difficult to, you know, because like for instance, you know, I'm here today. Like I could touch anything, and then say something. I don't know. You got knocked. You know, somebody murdered you, and I've been here. Obviously, my DNA is going to be here.
Yeah,
I'm going to have touched stuff. So
of course,
that didn't, you know, that by the print could have been somebody else.
Yeah,
that's just anybody really.
It could have been, because I think it was like a floor lamp, so anybody could have. She could have had a friend over and they've moved it out of the way. So yeah, I mean, I know it's an unsolved one, but I think most people are going to draw your own conclusions, and if anybody has any thoughts on it, let us know.
No, but I think I would say it was Gary.
Yeah. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.